Somebody on my YouTube channel asked if I would do a teardown of the GHD Helios hairdryer, and I do happen to have one in a box which is brand new, and so yes, here we go. First of all, we have the quite thick instruction manual in multiple languages. It comes with a single nozzle. That nozzle is 70, I can't remember, let's just get the calipers out. So it comes with a 70mm nozzle. We have the hair dryer itself. This is a white one with, you know what, I can't tell what colour that is. Kind of looks chrome, but it looks like it might have a tint of colour in it, and I don't see all colours perfectly, being slightly colour vision defective. This is a simple push fit on there, and this is a metal piece here that it goes onto, so there's really no reason why you should ever damage this, although I did have a customer contact me saying that they couldn't get this on to the end, and apparently they had not damaged this, so I never really got to the bottom of it because they didn't send in the hairdryer for repair. Maybe they dropped it really hard and damaged the end, but you would think they could only knock it inwards and this would still go on. Anyway, whatever. So we have the usual 2-speed switch, 2 heat settings, obviously can be used in any combination, and we have a cool shot button, so when you squeeze that, that cuts out all of the heat. And I do tell customers after a repair that it is a very good idea when you're finishing using these, not just to turn the power. Let's say you've got it on the second heat setting, doesn't matter what speed it's on, whatever, it's really hot. Do not just turn these off with the heat left on and turn the fan off. That will leave an awful lot of residue heat inside the hairdryer, and it's my belief that that can cause a premature failure of the thermal fuse that is fitted inside these. I think it's a much better idea to leave the fan on, turn the heat off, and just wait until these blow out cool air and you can feel it's cool, and at that point turn them off. That's how I believe you're going to get the longest use out of this particular model. In fact, any hairdryer I would think the same goes, but that's just my opinion. The most important thing on all of these hairdryers, the GHD Air and the Helios. So the Air is the Air 1.0, this Helios is the HE001. They all have their little labels. In fact, this isn't a label, it's just printed onto the body, but they're all marked. We have a single screw under this cover here, and then under these this trim here there are another further 2 screws, and then we have a cap and screw that goes through this silicone rubber hanging bit here. Yes, as I was saying, it is crucial to keep this cover clean. To remove it, just twist anti-clockwise, only sort of 10-15 degrees, and lift it away. The same goes for the Air 1.0, although the twisting is a little bit further, and then you will find that the Air 1 mesh will just fall out. In this case, it has been twisted and it's held in place by 3 plastic tabs. Again, don't know whether you're going to be able to see them. You can take it out if you need to. You just pivot, spin this around. In this case, it's pretty tight. Yeah, but you can normally just spin this. Here we go. Spin it around and line up the tab with the little slots, and it will lift out. That is useful if it gets completely blocked. You might want to then put it onto something and just brush it out with a toothbrush. If it's really, really clogged, what I do is use some isopropyl alcohol and let it soften up the dirt, and then just brush it all out. Hold it up to the light. You'll be able to see if any of those tiny holes are blocked. If they are, just get the toothbrush, dab it into the holes, and then brush away. Hold it up to the light again, and you will see that eventually you will clean all of those holes up, clean them out even. Let's get that back in there. There we go, I think. Close. There we go. And then just twist it around a little bit so it is locked in place and won't fall out. At that point, you can put it on the back and just spin it around, and eventually you'll find exactly where it needs to be, because it will just go in. You see the way that just went in there, and then click, and that is done. Okay, absolutely critical, got to keep that clean. Reduced airflow means hotter temperatures because there's less air being blown out. I'm just going to remove this for the second. Now, getting into these without damaging anything is virtually impossible. I don't think I've ever achieved it, and the reason is GHD don't make anything to be repairable. The hair dryers, the hair straighteners, all of their products, they don't sell spares, they don't complete repairs. It's down to companies like ours to repair their products wherever we can. But that means these are not designed to ever be opened by anybody. So this plastic plug, whilst it looks all very neat and this is finished very nicely now, it was not designed to be taken out again. Okay, now I'm not going to be able to show this very easily, but anyway, what I do is I get a razor blade, and I will get a very thin blade screwdriver. The first thing I will do is tuck the razor blade into the end, and would you believe it, this one is going to come out just fine. But normally I will prise it up a little bit with the razor blade like that, and then the flat screwdriver I will tuck inside next to it, and we'll just give it a little wiggle around, and eventually you will free up this little plug enough to get it out there like that. That is highly unusual. It could be that I've taken this pair apart in the past. I don't remember that, but maybe I did. Usually you will always leave a little mark on here where you've prised it up and the plastic is bent. Don't worry too much, it is purely cosmetic. Once you've put that plug back in, then you can get a rounded screwdriver and with some force just roll over the damaged plastic once it's back in there. So you'll get it and you will roll that screwdriver up, just flatten the plastic off. Now the next thing is I always make sure that these buttons and screw are tight, so with a bit of pressure on that back button there, I bend the silicone and I will test that screw and just screw it back in until it's tight. Once you get this lost, you're in trouble. That will eventually come out. Right, now on to the next tricky part. This trim is in two parts. We have a switch side half, and then we have a other half on here. What you've got to do is just gently bend this cord back, and with again that flat blade, small flat blade, we're just going to tuck it in there, and we're going to try and lift off really carefully without scratching anything the half there. Now I've just managed to release that a little bit. Get the screwdriver, just gently run it around, and then once you've done that, you should be able to get into here and lift it off completely. It can be a bit stiff. I've never broken one, but this feels a bit stiff. To get the other half off, which I'm going to do first actually, just tuck that screwdriver into that slot there and prise the other one up slightly. There we go, you can see that's come off. This time just run the screwdriver around and that one will come off, and that's going to give us a little bit more room to get this other side off. It's just a bit stiff, that one, for some reason. Be very careful with those, okay? They're nice cosmetic pieces. You can snap them. I've never done it, but I have seen other people, customers, snap them trying to get into these. Now, the first screw at the into here is an unusual type. You'll need a security bit set. You see that one? Can be a little fiddly, a little tight, but you just need to line the security bit up and then twist and turn, normal anti-clockwise, normal screw thread, etc. It's just got that security bit. You can tap it a few times and it should fall out. Now, this is where a lot of these are broken. The screws down at this cable end are very small screws. They go into tiny little bits of plastic, and I often see all of this area broken, and that is because of plastic fatigue. It can be caused by hair products being sprayed around, and it eventually affects the plastic and it makes it quite brittle, and this whole area here I often see broken. And quite often I have to super glue these parts back together and then put the trim back over. It's perfectly okay, but just bear that in mind and be careful. Support the back of the hairdryer where these screws are, and with the right size screwdriver just go in and undo these tiny screws. Got to support the back, you don't want any of this flexing. Then onto the other one, supporting it all with my thumb. Spin over, that's fallen out anyway. Right, at this stage, this is on here pretty tightly, and what I do normally is just bend it up a little bit from the back here. There you go, see, you can see that. That tends to free up a little bit of plastic here, and it will now, if you're lucky, yeah, it will just come away like that. But again, be gentle, don't be forcing anything. If it doesn't appear to be coming off, make sure you've undone this screw. I've made that mistake myself. I've started off at this end, completely forgotten that I've left that screw in, and I've got, you know, up here before I realise that something is not quite right. So this is the inside of the Helios. It's a pretty straightforward and simple arrangement. We have a very thick round cable. Now if we saw a round cable on GHD hair straighteners, alarms would be going off because they do not come with a round cable. They never have done. Only the fake GHD hair straighteners have had round cables fitted to them, but obviously on the hair dryers these have 13 amp fuses. We have 2200 watts of power potentially being used depending on the settings. A nice big chunky cable is required. This cable relief, strain relief, is moulded onto this cable, so if the cable is damaged, this whole lot has to be replaced with a used genuine cable. I have experimented with cutting the strain relief out and removing the cable, and then super gluing the whole assembly back together again. It's a slightly messy option. Unfortunately I've got enough spares that I've never had to do it, but if we ever run out of spares, it is possible to just split that open and gently par out all of the old cable, fit a new one, and then seal it all back up again. Now the cable is held in place here by pretty much the same arrangement you would get in a UK plug. It's just two screws. See how that flexes? You've got to be real careful with these. the plastic is quite flimsy, make sure you're supporting it. Pretty much like a UK plug grip arrangement. Then we have the little circuit board. We have 2 switches. We often see wear of the switches, the rocker switches themselves wear, the contacts inside wear. We have replacement parts for all of this, so we'll always be able to repair these switches for you. On the back, again, a lot of different wires soldered in here, going to various points. That is the cool shot switch, and this one is under tension when you press it, and then it will release. These do fail. We have replacements of those. The cool shot button itself can be pushed out, so watch what you're doing. If you do open these, that will fall out and be lost on the floor very quickly if you're not careful. Now, compared to the Air 1, this is a completely different motor. This has a control PCB. Fan is same design, but the shaft is a different size. So if you're repairing one of these and you need the fan for it, then make sure you order the correct fan for the Helios, because the diameter of the shaft is different. These do get broken. If the hairdryer is dropped, you can easily snap a blade. The usual way to notice that is when you turn them on, there will be this very, very high frequency vibration. If you're unlucky and you've broken a few, they really will be shaking around. We have in the past got over that by snapping out the opposite blade, and that will even things out a bit. But of course you're then missing 2 blades for airflow, which causes, can cause overheating and then failure of the thermal fuses. Thermal fuse. So yeah, just for the replacement we have these available. Undo this with a spanner, or in my case I use the pliers. Just grip, the fan and twist. Once that is loose, you can just lift this off. Now, on older ones you can find this quite hard to remove. There will be a build-up of hair possibly on this shaft, and that can make this quite hard to get off. So we'll put the fan to one side. Now at this stage this motor will just lift out. It is on rubber mounts. The Air 1 motor was screwed in place, but this one will just lift away, and we'll lift out the heating element assembly as well. Now in there we have the direction, I don't know what you call that, it's a guide. It's got to go in a particular way. Oops, if I can show you, they are horizontal, and inside also we have a mica sort of paper. It's like a cardboard, but it's a very high temperature resistant mica material. Can get a bit fragile with age and a bit crumbly. Certainly on the older Air 1s we do see them crumbling a little bit, but on these Helioses, they are pretty good. So that's that. Now if we go and quickly look at the elements, there are 2 separate coils corresponding to the 2 positions on the switch. There is a thermal, let me see it. Okay, so just in here we have a thermal, actually I can't see what you're looking at. Okay, just in there is a thermal cutout, and just on the other side here is a thermal fuse. It is critical if you are repairing these to fit the correct thermal fuse. It is really hard to get these out. In fact I have repaired these before, because I am looking at a replaced thermal fuse. So yes, I have in fact repaired these in the past. I thought they were brand new. I mean they're unused, but for some reason the thermal fuse had been tripped on this pair, and I have replaced it. Broken wires can be an issue. It's very rare to see any element wire damage on this model. The older Air 1 had a coiled, almost a coiled spring-like look, and that was wrapped around this similar mica material, and they definitely would break quite frequently. Once they've broken, all sorts of damage can occur. Broken fan blades, if they do break, and they can come off and they will literally fall down into the element. If you notice that vibration and then ignore it, you'll find that the plastic fan blade will sit there and it will be burning against the element wires here, and you can get them so badly burnt that they melt and they are embedded into the coils of a wire, and it can be difficult, almost impossible, to get them off of the element wires. We generally manage, and we'll use a wire brush to get as much plastic off as possible, but there may be some residual smell of burning over the next few weeks as the final bits of plastic just burn themselves away. Now on to the motor. Now generally this is a very nice reliable motor, but we'll cover a couple of bits in a minute. Do note, if I turn that on now at the mains, it knows that that fan is not fitted, so this will just pulse, and if I put it onto speed 2, it will pulse even quicker. So if the fan is not fitted, this is not going to work. So don't expect to be able to plug this in and just... In fact, I might even demonstrate that for you. Whatever you do with any of these, make sure you know what you're doing if you're plugging anything live like this, and make sure the heat is always off, especially on the Air 1. If you turn the Air 1 on and it's in the open like this, even if the fan was on there, clearly this element is going to get so hot immediately and you are going to do damage. So the fan is off. Sorry, the heat is off. We've just got to make sure that the fan is also off. Everything's clear. We'll plug it in, hold it. That's interesting, this one didn't pulse. That's what it should do. It's just pulsing because it can sense that there is no weight. I'm very surprised that that is running. I've never had that before. Usually it does that. So that was interesting for me, actually. Now, there is a problem with these motors. Whilst they are generally reliable, every so often we come across one that has blown itself to pieces. There are 3 wire connections to it, and you will notice if it has failed a lot of burnt components. Let me just show you the board. You'll see a lot of burnt components, and if you turn it over and you look inside here, you'll see even more burnt components. And if you actually take these screws out and start lifting all the covers off, there's 3 screws this side, and all of this will come away, leaving just the stator and the what I would call the armature, but it's not that type of motor. That is the bit that you can see just inside. So there'll be loads of damaged components, and even if we could work out the exact reason why it has failed, it's not going to be possible to repair it, even if you knew what all the damaged components were, and there's going to be 12, 15 damaged components at least on this. The damage is usually extensive. It goes up in such a bang that the windings here will be burnt. This is not damage to the coils themselves, it's damage from the exploding components, but it looks like it's got hot enough and there's enough damage there where I absolutely could not trust that coil of wires now to be undamaged. So I would never attempt to repair one of these for all of the components. I did read somewhere online somebody was thinking that they were going to be able to repair these once they sourced various parts and stuff like that, but everyone I've seen, the damage is huge, and there's no way you could use that. Absolutely no way. So if you see that, then these are pretty much scrap. I would say that up until maybe a month ago, I would repair these for our fixed fee of $39.99, and if the motor had failed, it was uncommon enough for me to use one of my spare motors, because I try and keep a few in stock. As we get low on stock, I have now decided that if we do have to repair a motor, it's going to be another £30. These are so hard to get hold of at a reasonable price used, even faulty. And obviously I don't want to buy a faulty one that has a blown motor. That doesn't really get me very far at all. So if we have damage like this and the motor's blown, you can opt to pay the extra and have that repaired, and it's probably still worth it even at £70, because this is a nearly £200 hairdryer. So yeah, just bear that in mind. If I contact you with these saying I'm sorry, the motor PCB is blown up, yeah, I'm not making it up. I don't want to have to change it because I hate wasting stuff like this, but that is the reason that this will never be repairable if that happens. Fortunately, it's uncommon. If I do, let's say I do 50 repairs, I'll probably see one blown motor PCB. So that's it really. Putting it back is pretty much the same as getting it out. There is one real pain in the backside. There is a rubber insert here that keeps the wires from chaffing on the plastic. That wasn't fitted on the Air 1. The wires would just go into a little groove here, as you can see here. But on this one, they've decided to fit this little bit of silicone. If you leave it a little bit up in the air like that and try and slot these things into it before lowering it down, we're just going to put the fan back in there first, make sure all the wires are the right way round. Then we're going to put the motor back in, and in this case we've managed to get those wires into that sleeve, and what we can do now is just force all of that down like so, and the wires are nice and safe running through that silicone piece. At this point you've got to line up the switches. There are some little holes that it lines up with, and the other awkward thing here is just getting this cool shot button at the right angle and back in to place. I can't do it on camera because it has to be on my lap, and then just try it. See, that is in the perfect position. The switches are down, we've got the cable in the right place. Don't forget to put the cable retainer plastic back in place, and again, I can't really do this in front of the camera for you, or maybe I can now, but you really need to be supporting this. They're quite coarse threaded screws, so you need a fair bit of pressure to do those up. There we go. That's those done up. Don't over tighten. Everything is lined up, and now we've got to put the fan back on. Now it is critical again that the fan is placed back in the same place. There should be a little bit of space just on the shaft showing there. If you put it on too far, the system or the fan will foul the plastic in there. If you put it on too high, it is going to foul the plastic of the cover, and you may not notice that immediately, but when you assemble them and you start shaking them around as if you were doing hair, you might find that the little bit of movement on the rubber mount is just enough for this fan to touch the body of this. So something else to look out for. Again, spanner is ideal really, but I never have them here, so I just use the pliers, and that is that. just check for free movement, check all the wires are routed correctly, everything is good, cool shot button is fine. Again, it gets a little bit fiddly here. I tend to tuck in the handle bit first. It's got to go under here, so don't start that way. Tuck it into there first and then bring it down at the front. It's pinged out, so we're going to have to do it again. It's hard to do keeping it on camera. There we go, that's it. And then press and it will click into place. Just look around, make sure you've got a nice gap, or not much of a gap all the way around. It needs to look the same. If it's pushed apart, you know, in here, it could be that you've got the cool shot switch not quite in the right place and it's stopping the middle going together correctly. At that point, we will get the first screw back into the middle. A little tip here, it can be very stiff. Bit of isopropyl alcohol, a couple of drips into there, and with the security bit I'll drop that in, and whilst that isopropyl alcohol is in there, it's a lot easier to do these up, and of course within a short period it has evaporated. It's going in very easily. And nip that up again, don't over tighten any of these. Right, now onto the screws at the end. Push this all together. Please make sure you are supporting the back here. One screw in. Make sure you've got the right size screwdriver and gently screw this in. Very easy to snap this plastic out. You just need this, I mean, barely nipped up. You just need to feel it stop, or you will start breaking things, especially on the older versions where they've seen a lot of use and things are a bit fragile, plastic's a bit hardened, you know, that sort of thing. Right, plug, that can literally just be pushed back in. Now if you have got that damage there, this is when you will get your screwdriver and just literally smooth it down wherever that damage is, and it will just cosmetically look a little better. But as I say, these are not designed to be repaired, so you're going to have to put up with a little bit of cosmetic damage on this model. There's very little we damage on repairs normally, but that little bung is one of them. Now we've got to put this piece on. We'll go with the split piece first. Lift that silicone up and slide this under. At that point, you're going to need to bend back the cable tension piece here. Just bend it out of the way like that and click that last bit in. It's quite stiff, and this one will just go in. So click one side, spin round, click the other side, and that is that. Do not run these without the air filter. You can buy these from us if you've lost one, but you've got to keep, you wouldn't believe the hair dryers I've seen, full of hair, dirt, dust, just terrible, you know, it's a fire. One of them was so full, the hair and dust filled the entire enclosure of the hairdryer. I do have that on film from some months ago. I had never seen anything like it. It was like a bird's nest of hair and dust. Incredibly dangerous situation. That could have caught fire at any time because the elements were heating up and there was no airflow, so it wouldn't have taken very much to have ignited the hair and dust, and there would have been a fire going on. That was because this filter was missing, so do not run it without that filter. Okay, so I start with everything off, and we'll check the fan, and then we'll put it on fast with the heats. the heat off, I'll just run it for a few seconds just so it cools down completely, and I can guarantee a nice long life to these hair dryers. And I suggest you would do the same thing. Just noticed that is not quite horizontal, so at some point I'll probably take these apart, but as I said earlier, do make sure that is horizontal. Oh, there it goes, just clicked into place for me. Do make sure that those are horizontal. Hopefully you can see that. Let me turn it upside down. Yeah, I think you can see that. So that's it really. A very nice, expensive hairdryer, fully repairable. Fingers crossed that you don't have a motor blow up, but we do have motors currently available to swap. Cables, no problem. Everything else, no problem. Dodgy switches, you might find that they don't turn on. You might find that the heat doesn't work. All of these things are repairable. So that's it. That is a teardown of the GHD Helios HE001. And yeah, I hope that was useful, or at least to the person that asked about it on YouTube. So thanks for watching.